Yeah, good evening. You are in Unit 4. Unit 4 deals with preparing to teach senior high school mathematics. And Section 1 of Unit 4 deals with planning, implementation, and evaluation. At the end of this session, you should be able to identify and explain the three basic teaching functions. And these three basic teaching functions are what you are saying that one is planning, implementation, and evaluation. So the first one, planning. Planning is a vital element in teaching, since the whole decision-making model is based on this skills. Cognitive learning theories indicate that the amount and rate of learning is influenced by the nature of the subject matter itself, the way it is broken down, and the order in which it is presented. This was said by Addison and Asubel, 1965. This function requires teachers to make decisions about learners' needs. That's the function of planning. The planning function is what we are talking about. Requires teachers to make decisions about learners' needs, the most appropriate goals and objectives to help meet those needs, the motivation necessary to attain their goals, and the most appropriate teaching strategies to use. Teaching skills that support the planning function are diagnosing student needs, setting goals or objectives, and determining appropriate learning activities that can help to achieve those goals. Then the teaching is not, or we are saying that teaching is not simply standing in front of a group of students, telling them how to do things, or simply checking students' performance on tests or assignments. I go way beyond that. What activities to be used, how to sequence these activities, and the language to use in conveying the mathematics ideas and concepts to students. This is what the teaching should be based on. Another point to note is that the teacher of mathematics must be an advocate of the field. He must have belief, excitement, and enthusiasm about what is being covered. And with this, we are saying there are three axioms to consider. The teacher must know the content being presented. The teacher must know more than the content being presented. Then the teacher must teach from the overflow of knowledge, using knowledge about how students learn. These are the axioms to consider when teaching. Because we are saying that a good classroom or good classes do not just happen. They are carefully planned and orchestrated. Occasionally, there can be some deviations from the plan that the teacher has, but the framework is laid out well ahead of time so that the deviations will not be that much. And even if there are deviations, the teacher will communicate because you have planned ahead. And planning also gives the opportunity to connect topics from lessons throughout the course. Then we come to implementation. Implementation involves teacher carrying out his or her plans, especially teaching methods, strategies, and learning activities. This occurs when the teacher interacts with the students. When you interact with the students, you communicate the teaching strategies, the method that you want to use, and the learning activities that you want them to engage in. Teaching skills that support these functions are presenting, explaining, listening, introducing, demonstrating, eliciting response, and achieving closure. Evaluation. Evaluation requires decision about suitability of objectives and teaching strategies linked to them, and eventually whether or not the students are achieving what the teacher intended. That's what evaluation is about. You check how suitable the objectives and the teaching strategies are linking to the students' learning and whether they have been able to achieve what you intended them to achieve. The teaching skills which support this function are specifying the learning objectives. describing the information needed to make such an evaluation, recording, analyzing, and forming judgments. Then the teacher must examine the results of your teaching and decide how to handle each teaching. There are some assumptions here to consider. It is assumed that teaching is a goal directed. Some change in student thinking or behavior is sought. Teachers are active shapers of their own behavior. They make plans, implement them, and continually adjust to new information concerning the effects of their actions. The teaching is a rational process which can be improved by examining its components in an analytic manner. Teaching behavior can affect students' behavior and learning. So these are some assumptions that you should consider. Then it comes to evaluation. Normal evaluation occurs at 3 key stages during the lesson planning: lesson implementation and post-implementation. These are the 3 key stages that evaluations occur. In the planning, there should be evaluation. During the lesson implementation, there should be evaluation, and the post-implementation, there should also be evaluation. In the selection of lesson objectives and methods for any topic, you should evaluate the choice being made as to the suitability or otherwise of selecting objectives and methods. During the lesson implementation also, you should engage in ongoing evaluation as to whether you are likely to achieve your stated objective, whether there is the need to vary or change your instructional strategies based upon how students are responding to the question. Then after the lesson delivery, there is a need to still determine, among others, what objectives are fully or partially or not achieved at all. What accounts for students' successful learning of stated learning behavior. You should have all these things. Then in order to be an effective teacher, you need to be reflective practitioner. Whether you are constantly thinking through your actions, asking a series of questions as to the soundness and effectiveness of your choice, and seeking to constantly improve your teaching and your student learning experience. These are some of the things an effective mathematics teacher should have in mind. Always be a effective practitioner. In order to become a effective practitioner, there is the need for the possession of 3 types of knowledge, according to Coggreen-Smith and Little, 1999. They are saying that in order to become effective or reflective practitioner, 1, you should have knowledge for practice, then knowledge in practice, then the third one is knowledge of practice. Knowledge for practice is when you are gaining at the moment as you are preparing to become SHS mathematics teacher. Whatever you are gaining at this moment, that's the knowledge for practice. You are gaining to go and practice. All the various courses you are taking, either in mathematics, pedagogy, that's the method of teaching, the theories of student learning, that's the psychological basis, are all geared towards preparing you for the classroom. So we are saying all these things are knowledge for practice. The content, that's the mathematics itself, the methods of teaching, that's the pedagogy, then the psychological basis, that's things, the theories of student learning. The knowledge in practice or knowledge in action also refers to knowledge that effective teachers have learned or acquired through their practice. What you learn on the job, what you acquire on the job as you teach, what you learn. The experiences that you acquire, that's the knowledge in practice. The knowledge of practice, that's the relationship between knowledge and practice. and the theoretical aspect of both. And it's also emphasized on the role of the constructing knowledge and learning and growing through that. Cottagin and Vassalos 2005 identified 9 questions to consider when reflecting on practice. 1. What was the instructional objective? What did you intend for the student to learn? What did you do? What strategies did you employ? What did the students want to learn? 5. What made you select an objective and particular method? 6. What were the students thinking? 7. What did the student actually do? You know, there's one you said, what did the student wanted to do? Now say, what did the student wanted to do? Or what did the student actually did? Number 8, how did you feel after the lesson? Were you successful or not successful? 9, how did the student feel or react towards the learning? This brings us the end of this session. In this session, we learn about the 3 basic teaching functions in order to ensure effective teaching and learning. And so this includes the planning, implementation, and evaluation.